This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Amanda Bauer. It's Thursday, August 26. In Squiz Kids Today, the COVID class conquers NAPLAN, lost and found in the woods, the end of a rock and roll era, and the Paralympic party gets started. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
The results are in and you did it, kids of Australia. Despite lockdowns and home learning for millions of Aussie kids, the first NAPLAN results of the coronavirus pandemic are in, and they show there's been no significant drop in your literacy and numeracy skills. That sound you can hear? That's your teachers, parents and carers breathing a sigh of relief. Experts thought that NAPLAN results would be lower than when you were tested in 2019, but the COVID class has proved them wrong. A special shout out to Victorian students who spent more than 120 days learning from home before the tests. You did the best out of all the states. One big caveat, a fancy word that means a warning, is that the results haven't yet been broken out into how different groups performed. So it is possible that kids living in certain areas or who come from certain backgrounds didn't do as well as others. Also, NAPLAN only measures literacy and numeracy, so it's possible that your science, history and even social skills might need some work. Still, considering all that we've been through over the past year and a half, you, your parents and your teachers should take a big bow. Squiz Kids salutes you, one and all.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Russia, where a toddler has promised not to walk off on her own again. That might not sound like news. Everyone with a little brother or sister knows that kids are notorious for wandering away. But this little girl was lost for 4 days in the woods on her own without food or water. 22-month-old Lyuda Kuzina had been playing with her big sister when she wandered off from her family's home. 400 volunteers and police spent 4 days looking for her. Then, a volunteer who'd stopped for a rest heard a squeak and found Lyuda covered in insect bites under a tree. She was reunited with her mum and checked out at a hospital. Her family says Lyuda has promised not to run off again, but her mum said, how long she'll remember that promise, I have no idea.
Sport time.
The Paralympics party has well and truly started, with cyclist Paige Greco winning Australia's first gold medal yesterday afternoon. Paige twice smashed her own 3,000-metre world record, once in the heat, then again in the final. Just a few minutes later, fellow Aussie cyclist Emily Petricola also won gold. She was so dominant that she overtook her opponent in the final, which gave her the instant win. And just like that, Australia had its second gold. Then the legends over at the pool took our tally up to 6 golds, with Will Martin setting a Paralympic record in the 400 metres freestyle, Lakeisha Patterson winning the women's 400 metres, Rowan Crothers bringing it home in the 50 metre freestyle, and Ben Popham in the 100 metre freestyle. In his post-swim interview, Rowan Crothers had a message for all young Australians with disabilities. Get out there, find something you love, and chase it. Legend.
Pop Culture Corner.
Musicians all over the world were in mourning yesterday after it was announced that Charlie Watts, the drummer for the Rolling Stones for more than 50 years, had died. Now, don't you dare make me feel old by saying that you've never heard of the Rolling Stones. Seriously, they're one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. I'll put some examples of their songs in your episode notes. I reckon you'll recognise them. When the Rolling Stones were first starting out in 1963, they knew they needed a great drummer. So they saved up until they could afford to pay jazz drummer Charlie Watts $10 a week, which even then wasn't much. Within a couple of years, they were topping the charts and playing sold-out concerts, and they've kept it up ever since, with Charlie's beats behind them. Earlier this month, the band announced that Charlie, who was 80 years old, would not be rejoining their latest tour because of ill health. He died in hospital, surrounded by his family. Rest in peace, rockstar.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question 1. How long did Liuda Kuzina spend in the woods without food or water? That's right, it was 4 long days. Question 2. Which legendary rock band is mourning the death of their long-time drummer? You got it. It's the Rolling Stones. And question 3. In which sport did Australia win its first 2 Paralympic gold medals? Yes, it was in the cycling.
Shout-outs.
It's August 26, which is the 21st anniversary of Australia's first ever Rugby Tri-Nations Championship. Nowadays, it's a 4-way competition with Argentina joining New Zealand, South Africa and the Aussies for the last 10 years. It was announced this week that the rest of this year's fixtures will be played in Queensland, with COVID bubbles being established for each team arriving from overseas. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Phoebe from Walpole, Grace from Harden, Billy from Freshwater, Connor from Ballajura, Ava from Meadowbrook, Matilda from Corrine, Madeline from Hornsby, Tyre from Yarraville, Rafferty from Coogee, Holly from Tarrawanna, Elliot from Thirroul, Liam from Petersham, Melody from Nambucca Heads, Alice from Woy Woy, Sam from Alice Springs, and Jacob and Arthur from Canberra. And a belated birthday wish goes to Phoebe from Lower Mitcham. Because our friends in Victoria, Canberra and New South Wales are in lockdown, we're sending out home learning herograms. The Hollands family want to send a herogram to all the staff, students and families at Inverell Public School. Eloise in Year 6 at Ellison Public School would like a shout out to her grade and hopes that they can all go back to school and celebrate Year 6 events very soon. A homeschooling shout out goes out to Miss Shaw and Class 3S at Queen Beanne South Public School for doing such an excellent job working from home. To Mrs Anderson and Class 3-4S at St Thomas More School in Mount Eliza, thank you for making home learning fun and caring about the class. And our final home learning hero shout-outs to Mrs Lazzalo at Newtown Public School and to Ms Shepherd and Class 2C at Hampton Primary School. Plus, a classroom shout-out to Grade 5 and Mrs Kime at St John's Anglican College in Forest Lake, Queensland, who fortunately are not in lockdown. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout-out, or if you want a classroom shout-out or you'd like to send a home learning herogram to your class or your kids, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. That's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.
Squiz Kids is proudly supported by the Judith Neilson Institute for Journalism and Ideas.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.